Today, I present to you a true naval legend, HMCS Haida, Tier 7 Premium Commonwealth Destroyer, a real historical ship and the pride of the Canadian Navy. But of course, there is no Canadian Navy in World of Warships Legends. There's only the Commonwealth, which already has a few ships that fly under its flag. Those would be three cruisers, namely the Mysore, the Perth, and the Brisbane, most of which are Australian cruisers. The Haida joins them as a Commonwealth destroyer, flying the Commonwealth flag and not the Canadian flag. And this, of course, presents some problems. Namely, there is no Commonwealth Destroyer Commander in the game. No Commonwealth Destroyer Commander debuted with the Haida, and as such, you only have two choices for commander at the helm of this ship. That would be number one, Leonard Murray, who I'm currently running. He's the universal commander, much like George Dewey for the Americans, so his skills apply to any class, and therefore he does not have a specialization in destroyers. Not ideal, I would say. Or Harold Farncombe, who is a cruiser commander, since most of the Commonwealth ships are cruisers. And thus, this is not specifically a review of Haida. The fact that there is no destroyer commander is probably, I would assume, a deal breaker for the vast majority of players who might consider buying this ship. Now, you might want to do it anyway because it is on sale right now in the special tab of the store. You can buy it for the usual Tier 7 premium price of 17,500 doubloons if you want only the ship. There is another package, though, that costs a whopping 33,000 doubloons. It gives you the Haida, it gives you a D-Day inspired frag camo for the ship, which I'm not currently wearing, and then some commander progression items and bonus flags and the like. Personally, I don't think it's anywhere near worth spending 33,000 doubloons on this thing, but I suppose I could see purchasing it for the regular Tier 7 price. At the very least, you don't need to take any chances on low percentage crate drops in order to obtain the ship. You can just buy it straight up. So that's nice. But again, there is no destroyer commander for it. And I think that may be a deal breaker for some people. So this is not so much a review of the Haida. Instead, it's a look at this match because I think this is an interesting match worthy of putting on YouTube. We are, of course, on the estuary map, playing everybody's favorite game mode, Capture the Base, which I say that sarcastically, of course, because Capture the Base mode is not as good as Domination. And the red team is going to perform an interesting maneuver on this map, which normally I would think would lead to their defeat, but it doesn't. Spoiler alert, maybe, but you can see what's happening now with the Atlantico over there going through the center of the map, straight from the enemy cap to the blue cap. Estuary is an interesting map, of course, because when it is Capture the Base, the bases are within like one grid square of each other, separated only by the chain of islands in the middle. And most of the time, if you are going to take your ships this early in the game, right through the center of the map and into the enemy cap, it is going to spell your demise, because by that time, the blue team has not quite left the capture circle area and deployed to the flanks. You can see that the blue team is on either side of the friendly base right now as the Atlantico creeps into it. And so the Atlantico and anybody who follows him should be caught in a hopeless crossfire here and sink very quickly in short order. But of course, that would require the blue team to pay attention to the base, and most of them are not. We've got one battleship and one cruiser next to us, headed back toward the base to deal with the Atlantico. But the rest of the team on the other flank is for some reason concentrated on the battleship and cruiser far out there, and really not looking back in this direction to deal with the Atlantico. This guy is now in our base, along with the ZF-6. Both of them are, of course, stopping our points accrual from the base, and they will be for the foreseeable future, because this Atlantico is going to float for far too long. I suppose I can give you a couple of facts about the Haida, since this is not really a review. What you need to know is that this is a tribal class destroyer, aka a British one, and it's more or less what would happen if you took the Cossack at Tier 6, put it in Tier 7, and improved it a little bit. There are 6 guns here. They're 120mm guns, rather small caliber with a 4-second reload. The HE damage is, of course, excellent. I haven't really had much of an opportunity to test out the AP, so I don't know if it's as good as the usual British AP on destroyers is. But this thing also has a British sonar with a rather low ship detectability range. I think it's only 3.5 kilometers. It will be enough, hopefully, for us to catch this ZF-6 unless he has left his smoke screen, which I think he has. And of course it lasts for 3 minutes, so it's good self-defense for torpedoes. Then we've got 3 charges of the rolling smoke. It's not quite like the Italian rolling smoke. You can go at 1/4 speed and it will follow your ship as you go. Lasts for a little bit over a minute, and so it allows you to have some mobile concealment from which you can farm enemy ships and the like. Of course, it does also show the enemy exactly where you are on the map, because it's like one puff of smoke that follows you around at 1/4 throttle. And of course, once you deploy it, you can't really escape it. I mean, you can go faster than 1/4 throttle, and that way you're outside of the smoke screen so you can spot and the like. But once you're committed to the smoke, it's there to stay for the next minute and, I guess, 20 seconds. ZF-6 goes down. We do catch him with the smoke sonar combo. This combo, of course, is not as robust as something you'd find on the Lucian. The sea detectability range on the sonar is, again, very low, but still, it can work out for situations like that. And of course, clearing out the ZF-6 means the cap is free from any red presence. But the battleship and the cruiser that were behind me on the flank where I initially went out to, well, they're dead now. I'm not sure how, but they are. And so this Atlantico and some other ships are about to come around the corner of that island chain there and continue to put pressure on our base. This Atlantico apparently has thought better of it. You can see he's doing the battleship thing of stop, bow tank, and reverse. He may not want to push into this capture circle now that he knows it's occupied by a destroyer. Of course, the Haida, while it does have decent guns, it's not as much of a torpedo threat as your typical destroyer. Much like the Cossack, it only has 1 rack of 4 torpedoes. And because this is basically a British destroyer, you can single fire the torpedoes, which is going to come in handy for us later on in the match. But for now, we have to remain in the capture circle in an attempt to defend it. All the while, our team is being reduced. There's 2 battleships left and 2 destroyers. The battleships are not going to accomplish much, but the friendly destroyer, which is a Lucian, is primarily the reason I wanted to show you this match, this non-review of the Haida. Because this Lucian does some pretty good stuff near the end of this game, and I'll point it out as we go. Unfortunately, I did try to send him a direct message on the PlayStation Network after this game had concluded, but he does not accept direct messages on the PlayStation Network, so I could not compliment him that way. I was forced instead to put this game on YouTube so I could call him out for his rather excellent play. It's not going to be obvious yet, but don't worry, it's coming. For now, D7 Provincian is inside the cap, or D7P, since I apparently cannot pronounce the name of that thing. He's just taken a hit from one of the 2 remaining enemy, or friendly battleships rather, and he doesn't have much HP left. So, we're going to try something that's probably a little bit reckless here. Our smoke screen is 20 seconds away from cooldown, but we get a little bit too close to D7 Provincian. We are built for some concealment, so we have a sea detectability range of 5.1. And as you can see, the AP against the broadside of a cruiser like this is fairly effective. We do chunk the D7P fairly nicely there. But of course, he's shooting back, and then he's got 2 battleships next to him, both of which I think are Atlanticos. So their secondaries are no joke. They've removed the vast majority of our HP, and we're down to quite low. D7P manages to get away with it as one of the Atlanticos pushes in. Both friendly battleships are still alive, but we can see that one of them has entered the cap along with us, and I don't think he's got a whole lot of HP left. We're committed to the smoke screen now, of course. We've got the second deployed, so we're going to crawl at 1/4 speed away from these ships while farming them with the main guns as our teammates push in to assist us. The Lucian, you can see, has just entered the cap, and he is going to prove to be the most useful teammate we have in this game. We can see the airstrikes of the D-7P going out toward the battleships, and one of the battleships sinks. That just leaves one more battleship and me and the Lucian versus these two Atlanticos, some other battleship that was last seen kiting away from the flank that I was initially on, and as far as I know is never going to be seen again in this match. And then a cruiser, who at the moment is also not spotted, but I think is going to join the fray soon enough. Unfortunately, it happens to be a Wichita. Probably one of the worst possible cruisers we could be asked to face after this blue battleship goes down, which he will. And his absence, of course, leaves just me and the Lucian versus the three battleships and the radar cruiser. Not an ideal situation, and frankly, I don't know how it came to be this way because, again, I think pushing your entire enemy force or your entire team through the center of estuary right at the beginning of the game is a recipe for a loss. But I guess if the blue team doesn't capitalize on it, then it might be a recipe for a very convincing win. Although we're going to try to make the win not so convincing. Unfortunately we mistime our shot, and we end up firing the guns just as our smoke screen dissipates, which means we get briefly spotted and reduced to 415 HP. But don't worry, that's 414 more HP than we actually require to continue participating in the battle. We do have torpedoes, which we're going to have to deploy shortly. I think the Lucian, though, takes down one of the two enemy battleships, because there are only two, or one of the three enemy battleships, because there's only two left now. One of the Atlanticos has been dispatched. That means, at the moment, only this Atlantico is here. We don't know where the other battleship is, and we don't know where the Wichita is yet, but we're gonna find out where the Wichita is momentarily, and it's not in a great place for the Lucian. There, we spot him now as he comes around that corner, well within radar range of the Lucian, but not us. Lucian was already anticipating the Wichita's appearance, and you can see the deep water torpedoes headed his way. I don't know if they're going to connect right away, but I want you to keep in mind what this Lucian is about to do here, because this is truly impressive. Atlantico is once again playing the regular battleship tactic of sit still, bow tank, and maybe reverse. And as I've told you many times before, this leaves you vulnerable to things like HE spam and torpedoes. There's not much HE spam for the Atlantico to worry about, but because this is more or less a British destroyer, even though it's not, it can once again single fire its torpedoes, which means we can land them with super accuracy. We managed to land 3 on the Atlantico's nose. The 4th one we sent out wide in case he turned, and that's nearly enough to take him out. He's so low now that I think we can afford to smoke up and farm the rest of his HP with our guns. Of course, Lucian is also inside of a smoke screen, so he's not able to see the Atlantico for us. Instead, he's dealing with the Wichita, who can clearly see him and I assume has probably radared him at multiple points. But there he hits the Wichita with his torpedoes and manages to take him out with not much HP to spare. Truly, I think, an impressive move there, which is why I give him not 1 but 2 well dones on the comm wheel. And this, I think under normal circumstances, would have been enough to win the game. Between myself and that Lucian, we sunk 7 of the 9 enemy ships. Another 8th was sunk by some random teammate, but the 9th is that final battleship who we last saw kiting away from the flank that we initially deployed on. That battleship has not been spotted since. I have no idea what he's doing. For all I know, he may have quit the game and gone AFK. But since he's not within sight, and there's no way we can sink him. Well, the enemy team did stop our accrual of points long enough by contesting our cap that we are behind by nearly 100 points. And so, unfortunately, despite my efforts and the heroic efforts of the Lucian over there, we're going to lose this game. But I wanted to show it to you because I think that Lucian played really well, and I think I did just about all I could in the Haida to try to turn this one around. Not a bad game on either of our parts. I'm not sure what can be said for the rest of the blue team, unfortunately. But I hope you enjoyed this non-review of the Haida. If you want an actual review, I suppose I'll do one. This is just sort of tongue-in-cheek because, of course, Wargaming did not provide a destroyer commander for this ship, sort of like what they did with the Atlantico several months ago when they released that without a dedicated battleship commander. And I just feel like if there is no dedicated commander, providing a review on the ship is maybe not that worth it. But, you know, you could still buy the ship. I think it's a good ship even without a dedicated commander, and I assume there will be one in the future. But if you do want an actual review on the ship, let me know in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.